Welcome back to We Still Like Each Other, the podcast. I'm Travis.
And I'm Stephanie.
And this is the podcast where we show that the honeymoon stage can last forever.
Forever and ever.
Hey, baby.
Hey, daddy.
Is my energy at a good level
Yeah,
this week?
It's good. It sounds very natural today.
Yeah. Okay.
So how you doing?
I'm good. It's my birthday week.
It is your birthday week.
I am 34 years old.
Do you feel like you need WD-40 on your joints?
It's funny you say that. I gifted myself a little shirt, actually from my sponsor, WD-40. They sent me this shirt. They heard last week's episode. It says, I'm not old. I just need some WD-40.
As I was asking, how do you feel? How your joints feel?
Honestly, to be honest, I stopped counting after a while. Like,
You stopped counting?
like how old I am.
Oh, I said, how does your joints feel?
Oh,
like literally.
lubricated.
Like your knees, your elbows, your shoulders, they're lubricated.
Wet.
So you don't need WD-40
I don't
on
need
them yet?
WD-40.
Okay.
But as far as feeling 34, like I don't really, it's just another number.
Yeah.
Like after 25, I stopped caring. It's like, okay, I could rent a car. Cool.
For me, I don't know. I feel like I never pictured myself at this age. So every year feels like a gift.
I will
like,
say when I was younger, this age seems so much older.
Yeah.
And now that I'm here, I'm like, I'm young still.
Yeah,
The
definitely. I'm still young. We're still young. But we got to do grown shit.
Like,
Save for retirement,
pay
college
bills.
funds, pay bills, not get shit-faced in the middle of the week.
I try
Grown
my
people
best.
shit.
I try my best as I sip my beer.
Our one beer that we're going to have and it's going to make us sleepy. I wanted to talk about a clip that is making its rounds on TikTok.
Okay.
And the clip is highlighting you speaking about why you choose me.
Bars.
And in the clip, you say, because I'm your best friend, you enjoy doing things with me, right?
More specifically, I can include you in every aspect of my life.
Uh-huh.
People really fuck with that.
And it, for the most part, 99% of the feedback is positive.
Yeah.
People love it. They're like, I want to find that one day. But there were a couple of comments that made me think, right?
The negative always shines brighter.
Not that it shines brighter, but it makes me think.
Yeah.
Right? So someone said, does anybody else think this is a red flag? So what about you wanting to include me in everything could be perceived as a red flag?
It could be perceived as controlling, lack of trust. Like I only trust you as far as I can see you. So I could see
So then this is where I want to clarify, because in you saying that you can include me in everything, it's more so saying I'm not a vibe kill. Like I could be with you in all these scenarios and you still have a good time. I can partake in them.
If anything, you're the vibe creator.
Period. But it doesn't mean that you cannot do anything without me. That's the difference. So you didn't say I have to do everything with you. You said I enjoy doing these things with you.
I would prefer it, to be honest.
That too, we prefer it. But then it's also like, I know when I get invited out, like to a dinner or to an event, even a trip, my first question is, can Travis come? Right? But that doesn't mean that if a friend of mine says, no, actually it's a girl's trip, it's a girl's dinner, that I'm going to say, oh, no, never mind, then I can't go. If my man can't be there, I'm not going.
Well, then I would say I don't, assume what I identify as.
You want to be a lady for the night?
I am he, she, they.
I be trying to make a point, and Travis just wants to.
I can't. I always see the alley-oop for a joke.
So what point was I trying to make?
That basically, it goes to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Like she said, if her friends invite her out and say, no, it's actually girls only, there's no sweat off my back.
Yeah. And I'm still going to go.
Yeah. I'll stay home, happily stay with the boys, and we'll have a boys' night.
But it's really nice when we could do things together, especially because neither of us are in the streets like that. We don't go out that much. So the times that we do, it's nice when we can do them together.
Yeah.
somebody else said something. You were like, I'm going to take a screenshot of this. And I forgot what it was. And now it's like not coming to mind.
Let me get my screenshots. Hold on. I have it. It was, no. Love this for them, but also don't feel bad if you and your partner don't want to do everything together. Individualism is healthy and totally okay.
Absolutely. I think that what we have isn't the only formula. You can be your partner's best friend without necessarily needing that. I feel like some people thrive in having their space. More power to them. I feel like every once in a while, like I'll get in a mood that like I will enjoy some alone time, but it's not a part of me. Like I'm like, I need to be alone. I need my space. But there are some people like that. And if that works for you, that works for you. Like we speak on our experience because it's what works for us. And on this huge planet, we know that there's a lot of people who probably feel the same, but that doesn't mean everybody will.
Yeah. I'll be honest, some dynamics are hard for me to wrap my head around, but that doesn't mean, it just means it wouldn't work for me. And, shout out to those people who do have those different dynamics.
And again, different dynamics I can support if it doesn't come back to abuse, right? Or manipulation or control. Because there are situations where it's like, why can't I go with you? What are your friends going to do? Why is it a girls trip? Why are no guys involved? What y'all trying to do? Like that becomes controlling, manipulative, and that's a red flag. But what we discussed is not that. I never feel like you don't want me to be me. And that's another thing. In me doing things with you, you never stop me from being myself. If that makes sense.
Just take a look at my story on Instagram. The things I post.
Oh, yeah. You be embarrassing me on there. But all right, anyway.
I always get her approval, so.
Yeah. Not of every picture you post of me.
I'm talking about like if I post a picture of you using the exercise pole.
Okay, yeah. You asked me first. And I'm like, okay, I guess. So anything else interesting happened to you this week? Or anything you want to talk about your week before we move on to Did You Know?
No, just my birthday. Looking forward to this weekend and, doing a little celebrating. That should be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know?
Did you know I'm not ready? All right. Did you know? Did you know the world's longest marriage lasted for 86 years? The next time one of your friends tries to tell you that true love doesn't exist, just tell them to look up Herbert and Zelmira Fisher. According to the Guinness World Records, the late couple broke the record for the longest marriage in history back in February 2011, having been married at that point for a staggering 86 years and 290 days. As for the secret to their success, the couple once said, "There's no secret to our marriage. We just did what was needed for each other and our family."
So I have a couple questions here. Clearly, this was at a time when people were married really, really, really young because 86 years, like how old were they?
10.
Yeah, they probably got married in their teens, like 14, 15. Let's say they were at least 100 years old. 2, I don't like that attitude. There's no secret. We just did what we had to for our kids and our family.
Did they say for our kids and our family? No, they said for each other.
They didn't say our kids.
We just did what was needed for each other and our family.
And our family. Yeah.
Each other came first. Kids. Words matter.
Yeah. Okay. Let me not be so pessimistic. I just be worried about that whole, we're married, so we're just going to do what we got to do to stay together. But giving them the benefit of the doubt, and they were actually happy and they liked each other the whole time. I think it's beautiful.
86 years is a long fucking time. We'll be lucky if we get half that. Mm-hmm. How old are we? Like a good 50 years?
Yeah. Good 50, 60 years.
Your workout earlier was pretty impressive. So I think you got me by a little longer. But a good 50 to 60. 50
to 60 years. Okay. That actually made me think about something that I wanted to talk about with the weekly recap and the video and this. what are the activities that you say that I participate in for you? Not for you, but because of you. Like it's me joining you in your interest.
First thing that comes to mind is like TV, film. So I remember when we first kind of got together, the new Star Wars was coming out, and you rewatched from episode 1 to episode 6, and then we went to the theater to watch episode 7. And I don't think you would have done that otherwise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think when it comes to like things like that, like film and TV, you know, you love the Marvel series now.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. So I got into it because of you, but I continue to watch it because I actually enjoy it.
But if we break up, you better stop watching that shit.
And there's times like a movie's come out and I'm like, do you want to watch it with your brother? You're like, no, because then you're going to lose track. You need to know exactly what's happening in this universe just in case another movie comes out. You don't want me to get lost. And I appreciate that. But something that's a little bit like of an aha moment for me is that when I started to think of, okay, how have you joined my world? Like, what things have you done that were my interests that now you do too? And I feel like I couldn't think of anything.
I'd say food. I mean, listen, my palate still has a long journey to go.
Okay.
But if you want to compare day one Travis to whatever day this is,
Yeah.
I would say that I've opened up my palate for you. And if it weren't for you, I would still be eating only chicken tenders.
Okay.
Because they're not only for 12-year-olds.
You're right.
Shout out to Ashley.
Okay. I think that's fair. I will say I think you could do better. And not with trying food. Because I've also become like, if you don't like something, you don't like something. That's what it is. But I feel like sometimes you'll be like, yeah, whatever you want. You'll go where I want to go. But then you have like a weird attitude the whole time you're there. And it makes me feel like you're not actually enjoying it, right? So like if I went to the movie theater with you, but I was like checking my phone or like falling asleep every time or like not really there, not really paying attention, it's like, am I really partaking in your joy?
I get it.
Does that make sense?
Would you say that there's nothing? I mean, I haven't had time to think about it, but
and
nothing.
I'm not saying any fault to you. So what in this thought process and me trying to think about this, I remember a time when I felt like I didn't even know what my own interests were. Like I worked, I paid my bills, I did what I had to do, I went out time to time, but I used to always kind of envy, not in a like mal de ojo negative way, but I used to envy people that had an interest or a talent, like good dancers or good singers, or even you're like really good at video games and computers and you like anime. I always felt like I just existed. Like what's something that's me, that's Stephanie, that's like, she's good at this or she has an interest or a passion in this.
This mic.
Podcast. But this is like a year. We were together for 6 whole years before we started this.
So you're saying is there something prior?
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Right? And I'm not saying for you to answer it for me, but it kind of made me think like, holy shit. Like what is something that's me? That's like a Stephanie thing. Just
freestyling. I would say teaching. Like okay. I know you don't care for all the politics especially when it comes to teaching in a classroom, but when you were like really going hardcore into your business, watching you was impressive. It was something like you have a natural talent for that. So
I will say when it comes to teaching, I have thought about that, like, and not even just children, but I could see myself like in the future, like even teaching adults, like teaching itself, like, you know, taking something and explaining it, breaking it down for someone else. I feel like it's something I might be good at.
Yeah. What else? You're off and on with it, but I can see a lot of happiness when you're using your pole.
When I'm working out, period. When I'm active, I feel.
But I said I'm more so focusing on the pole because like you're really into it, like learning new routines and trying, you know, it's just the consistency that you lack with that. But when you're on it,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't sell yourself so short.
All right. I just was like wondering. I got into my own head about it. Like, I can't answer what he joins in with me, but I also can't answer what my own passions are. Like, what could you join in? Even the things you mentioned, they aren't things that you can easily like partake in.
You want to see me on the pole?
No thanks. I will say another thing that I do love and I enjoy, but life gets hectic, is like cooking. And I cook a lot. Obviously, I have a family. We
like
eat.
Experimenting,
trying new things. Like, I feel like I've mentioned numerous times wanting to go to a cooking class, and I've never done it. Like, why not? Why haven't I went online and found one and went? So I need to nurture that. That makes sense. So that made me, the reason I thought about it again was that couple that was married for 86 years. What does it look like to do what you have to do for one another besides the need, the necessities?
Yeah.
Besides providing, what things do you do for one another that spark joy, that is not just money and bills?
Yeah, I think that's something I battle with. I don't, although I know that you're very understanding that, life can be tough, I worry that I could coast when it comes to us. Mm-hmm. And, I don't want you to feel a way about it, like, oh, she understands that we haven't gone on a date in a while because we're both busy. We have kids. It's our work and da-da-da-da. But eventually you're going to be like, all right, well, we make time for X, Y, and Z. Why can't you fit that into the schedule? Mm-hmm. And so coasting is something that I worry about, not just professionally, but in our marriage as well.
Absolutely. I agree. I feel like that could apply to so many things in your marriage, right? Like, even if you're thinking about your sex life, just because you're constantly, even if you have a healthy sex life in regards to how often you're having sex, it could become boring, could become routine. Like, you got to do things to change it up constantly. Even if, like you said, I'm busy, we have a new baby, that we have X, Y, and Z, all these issues. Our need and the desires we have don't go away just because we know we're busy, because we're understanding people.
Yeah.
We still have to remember to get back to that.
Oh, sure.
All right. So our first topic was an anonymous submission from Patreon.
Okay.
And I'm going to start by posing this question. What is the fourth trimester? Fourth trimester.
I know 1, 2, and 3. What's
okay,
fourth?
So what are 1, 2, and 3?
The developmental stages. So I don't know, like
developmental stages of what?
Of pregnancy.
Acting like we didn't just have a baby.
But you see the teacher here? She's like leading me there. So is it like 0 to 3, 3 to 6, and 6 to 9?
Pretty much. That's like the rough estimate.
Killed it.
So we don't talk about the fourth trimester because it's not a real pregnancy development, but it's those first couple of months after the baby is born.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Which I feel like it's been coined the fourth trimester because it's probably the hardest time since the whole pregnancy, right?
When does the fourth trimester stop?
But, those first 6 to 8 weeks when you're first getting adjusted to feeding a baby every 90 to 120 minutes, a baby waking up every 90 minutes at night, the exhaustion, and if you just birthed the baby or C-section, whatever, if your body has gone through having a baby, you're healing during that time while all these changes are happening, right? And let's not forget, if you have other children or other responsibilities or other things you have to take care of. So we don't often talk about the fourth trimester. So our submission, they want to talk about how partners can support the birthing, breastfeeding, or chest feeding parent during the fourth trimester. So how do you think you supported me?
Well, so the running joke was I have useless nipples.
Yeah.
And, joke or not, it's true. I was very limited, especially during that time when we made the decision that you were going to exclusively breastfeed and what I could do. Even in the middle of the night. Like I could get up and pass you something, but that was it. And then how often is a newborn feeding? Like
every 90 minutes.
Something
every hour
crazy.
and a half to 2 hours.
So you were getting up a lot. So one thing for us, I was just like, all right, useless nipples, I'll change every diaper.
That was very helpful.
Every diaper, doesn't matter if it's pee, poop, whatever, or how often, I got you. Obviously, when I went back to work, you had to obviously do it. But if
you were home for the first month,
I got you. I think that was a major one.
I will say, like you said, there's nothing much you could do, but the things you were able to do, you never made me feel like I was bothering you, right? So like if I started to nurse, but then I was like, I need water or I need this, you kind of just were like, all right, I got you, whatever you need. I remember one time, so you have milk glands in your armpit, right? So one time I had like a big knot in my armpit and you massaged it out for me. I had like this little vibrator massager.
Yep.
And
time is crazy.
And you like forgot that even happened, right? And he had to like massage it out for me. And you kind of were just like, what's this? How do I do it? Is this enough? And you didn't make me feel like I was a burden. And you helped me in that sense. And when I was pumping, you would wash the pump for me. You would clean the I forgot what they're even called. The part that like goes on your breast.
Boil
all the parts to sanitize them, and you were on it with those things. You didn't make me feel like I was an inconvenience.
Honestly, I was happy to help.
Yeah.
Like I said, I did feel useless. Yeah. But I was like, whatever I could do. Like it didn't matter. It didn't matter to me how many times you asked something of me or how small I was. I was like up trying to move like the Flash. Water, snack, anything, a pillow.
Yeah.
Or can you rock him around the apartment?
Yeah.
Like whatever it took to take some burden off you, because I knew that when I laid my head down, I was able to get a good 7 to 8 hours because of the sacrifice you made.
Yeah.
Or were making.
Absolutely. So another part that I wanted to add to this is how can our friends and family help in the 4th trimester? What's something that either someone did for us or something you wish someone had done for us during that time?
I'm having a hard time remembering because also we didn't have a lot of people around.
Yeah, there was like a second wave of COVID. It was like when the Omicron was out. So like we weren't around that many people.
Like, a lot of people didn't even meet River until he was like 3-4 months.
Yeah. But I will say, Brittany and Leo ordered us food one day. And they didn't ask. They just said, food's on its way to you. And literally I was going to cry. It could have been also me being hormonal. But we all know Travis can't cook. And during the 4th trimester, guess who was still making all the meals? Me.
Okay.
So, when that happened, I was just like, oh my God, like this is it's like simple, but like so thoughtful and so much appreciated, Like a lot of people ask, what does the baby need? Does the baby need this? But like people forget to ask what we need. And like just covering one meal for us was just so thoughtful. Then one of my other friends, Christina, she like cash at me. She's like, I sent you $50 for dinner. Best thing ever. The other day, there was a reel about, someone just had a baby, so we're preparing her meals. And I shared it. And I'm like, this is cool. Someone DM'd me and said, in my town, we do this for anybody. For a whole month, we plan out delivering food to their house. Like, if we can't cook it, we'll send Uber Eats or we'll pick something up from a restaurant and take it to the house for the first 4 weeks. Like, how fucking amazing is that?
In America?
Yeah, in like PA.
Wow.
I said, what? That's amazing.
Community is important.
Yeah, like, and when we talk about it takes a village, that is amazing. And that's something even myself, I've never thought to like send meals or help with food for someone who just had a baby. But like moving forward, I know I would definitely do that. 100%. So if you know someone having a kid, or if you're wondering what to get someone, or
maybe even get them a gift card so they're forced to use it.
Yes, gift card to Uber Eats or their favorite restaurant. 100%. Yeah, so they're forced to buy food, or even Instacart, so that way they could order groceries and they don't have to go out and get it.
Another thing I was thinking as far as supporting someone, especially if they decide to breastfeed, is being supportive of their breastfeeding.
100%.
I don't know if you've mentioned it on this podcast, but you've told me at least that, you know, with Eli, you were kind of, it was short-lived because everyone's like, are you sure he's full? Or
yeah, is he eating enough? And blah, blah, blah. 100%. Let women do what they need to develop their supply for their kid. Like, if you're not a lactation specialist or their doctor, you don't need to make comments, you know? Yeah, that's definitely big. Also with like expecting them to be able to go out right away or do things, like, no.
And on the topic of breastfeeding, the opposite is true. You shouldn't feel like you're obligated to breastfeed just because you are. Like, you
got to do what's best for you at the end of the day.
It's a mental strain. There were times, it was some difficult times for you.
And physical, that shit hurts. That's another thing. There's this misconception that if breastfeeding hurts, you're doing it wrong. Bullshit. Even if you're doing it right, your nipple, its skin, is getting used to a human with a strong jaw sucking on it numerous times a day. It's gonna hurt. Like, even if you're doing it correctly, the skin on your nipple is gonna feel like it's raw. It's gonna feel like it's bleeding. It's gonna feel bruised. That shit is no joke. It's painful. And I feel like a lot of women may stop their journey because they're like, well, it's hurting. That means I'm doing it wrong. No. Until your nipple doesn't develop some tough skin. And for me, honestly, it wasn't until like week 7 that it finally stopped hurting. So that's another misconception. Get this nipple butter. I gotta post it. It was so good. I love that shit. And it still hurt, even with the nipple butter, but it soothed it and it made it feel not so dry and cracked. Yeah. And let me think. If you're coming over to visit someone in the 4th trimester, just like either hold the baby, and some moms might not want to, right? They might be like, no, I want to hold the baby. So then clean up their house, go wash some dishes, load the dishwasher, vacuum, do something around the house for them, because they might not want you to hold the baby, so they go clean. You know what I mean?
I've been visiting people wrongly, I guess.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I know for me, like my mom, my sisters, like my friend Janiris, they're the type that's just natural to them. Like if my mom comes over, she's straightening something up, cooking something, organizing something, wiping something down. My friend Janiris is the same way. But not everyone's like that. And sometimes it could be uncomfortable. So you also got to ask, like, is it okay if I vacuum this? You know? But that's so helpful. And that's something that, like, I miss. Like, being close to my mom. Like, I miss that. Her, just come over. And then even if my mom's there with the kids, then I'm, like, cleaning up the house, doing a million things. So that support is priceless.
Yeah. You know, even... It doesn't matter what amount of time passes. Any break you can have from your children is appreciated. You know, like, oh, hey, I'm going to go take them for ice cream.
Yeah.
You have some me time for an hour where you're not hearing mommy, 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 mommy.
Or even I'm going to sit with them in their playroom, right? Because sometimes
you don't want them.
You don't want your kid to leave you yet, right? And I know for me, like sometimes I'm like, even with my own mom, I'll be like, can you come babysit at my house? Because sometimes we kind of want to keep our kids in their space, right? All his toys are here, all his things are here.
Especially like if you're going to be out late.
It's baby proofed here. He has his playpen here.
And you want them to sleep in their bed.
You want them to sleep in their bed. So sometimes you kind of want your kids to stay in your space. So even just being an extra body, an extra set of eyes for your friends in the 4th trimester. I think that's amazing support.
Okay. So we'll do better.
Yeah, we got to do better too.
For the next one?
For the next one, no. For other people's kids.
Oh. She didn't say no.
All right. So we have a surprise. We have something interesting going on. So Also Y'all Can Relate is back. But I feel like I needed some professional support here. I feel like I couldn't really give the best advice. So I'm tapping into a very special guest that y'all are familiar with. So welcome back, Kiara Luna. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me back.
Yes.
You guys are famous now. We're
getting there. We're getting there. But thank you for helping us manifest it.
Of course.
So yeah, sometimes, we had this segment, Also Y'all Can Relate, and people write us asking for advice. And sometimes I feel like, who am I to give them advice on this particular topic? Like if I haven't experienced it. So I was like, you know what? I need to get some professional help here. And I was like, let me hit up my girl Kiara and we're going to read this one together and get through it together. Okay?
Okay. I love it.
All right. So on this week's Also Y'all Can Relate, we got a submission and I'm going to read it through and then we could digest it after. When I met my ex, he had just lost his grandmother 4 months prior to COVID, who he lived with his whole life and watched perish right before his eyes. Although he was still grieving and depressed, we managed to fall in love with each other and later moved in together. During our relationship, there were lots of good days and we were truly happy and in love. But there were also many days when he was too sad to get out of bed or even really talk to me. Sometimes I got annoyed and angered by his constant sadness and crying, but I never displayed this emotion to him. But I did understand that it was part of the grieving, and I continued to be a shoulder to cry on and reassured him that I loved him and was going to stick beside him through this. Fast forward to now, he's decided to go to therapy to learn how to cope with his grief and wants us to break up until he's in a better mindset to rekindle our romantic relationship. He's reassured me many times that he wants to marry me and better himself mentally so we can be together. For now, he wants me to remain in his life as a friend. The problem is, I know if we remain friends, we would have like a couple-like friendship. I don't understand how he can be in a friendship where we act like a couple, but not actively be in a romantic relationship as a couple. I also fear that he won't come back to me, since it may take years for him to learn how to cope and for our lives to go on separately since I moved out. I don't want to waste my time pinning over a man who isn't even mine or emotionally available for me. My question is, should I cut him off and begin healing from this relationship? Or should I remain his friend, which I know will be more like friends with benefits, until he's ready to mentally be in a relationship with me? I really love him and the thought of losing him hurts. Should I wait for a possible fairy tale or quickly escape this dead end?
Whoa.
Yeah, there's a lot there. We could start at the beginning, right? So
Right.
When we talk about grief and how it shows up in relationships, do you have any insight on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, as we all know, right, or some of us know, grief has 5 stages, right?
Okay.
We go from denial to anger, right? To bargaining, to depression, and then acceptance. But sometimes we stay stuck, right? We stay stuck in one of them. And perhaps it can be in denial, right? Not accepting that this person has really transitioned. And because we haven't accepted it yet, we haven't processed, right? We haven't processed the pain. But it sounds like at some point within the relationship with her, he got to that depressive state.
Yes.
And this is what it sounds like was kind of like of a burden to her in some ways.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, right? Because we're only hearing her side. So I'm not sure how she was of support to him. We know sometimes that when we get annoyed by people, right, because they continue to kind of bring up the same feelings and emotions over and over again, we can be very quick to say things like, you have to move on and, get over it. Like, it's been so long. So at times when we hear that, right, we now close off and we are no longer willing to open up within that relationship about the pain that we're feeling because we feel like our feelings are being dismissed.
How do we know when to like draw the line? Or so yes, we're gonna eventually through the grieving process end up in this depressive state. It's possible, right? Yes. But if we have a partner, when do we begin to say, okay, in order for me to feel like I'm a part of this relationship, I need you to get past the depression? Like, how do we have that conversation in a way that's healthy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think being vulnerable, right, and being realistic and also understanding from like the other perspective, for example, for her. So for her to also be vulnerable and sharing with his partner that this is, you know, I love you and I want you to get better. But the way that you are managing your emotions right now in regards to this loss is not effective, right? And I think that there is a certain period of time where we have to become a little bit concerned about our partners not moving forward, right? It's not about moving on. It's about moving through the emotions. So I think that when, you know, grieving is different for everyone, of course, you know, everyone grieves differently. Everyone takes, you know, their own time to go through the stages to grieve their loss. But I think that, you know, at some point between 6 months to a year, if we are still, you know, having these really intense emotions, is the time where we should consider, you know, getting outside help to really get that support in order for us to begin processing, right, and begin healing.
Definitely,
I was gonna say, I feel like we spoke about this maybe on another podcast, but it's like, you know how sometimes people can like kind of like soak in their sadness or just kind of
use it as an excuse to not grow
or a crutch.
Yeah, as a crutch, definitely. And based on this story, it seems like he did get support. What are your thoughts on the idea of now his idea of being better for her is to let her go? Like, we're going to break up until I get better. Travis is like, no, I don't like that idea.
Yeah.
Because he's not really breaking up.
Yeah. You know, I think it's very interesting in the way that this story is turning, because you are asking me to go through what you almost kind of went through, right? Because grieving, breaking up is grieving, right? Like if I lose you, I'm going to go through grieving, right? Like that, like I have to grieve your loss. And like he's asking her to stay there, but not there. You know what I mean? It's almost like, okay, like, you know, just stay with me until this process is done. It could be very confusing and also very hurtful to her, because I was with you when you were not getting the help you needed. Ooh. So what's now the difference between me actually being here with you when you're going through it and actually me seeing the benefits, right?
The
like
process of you healing.
Yeah. Like, how come you wanted me to stay there when you had no help, no skills, and you were really struggling? So I was there to support you, but now you don't want me there. I know I said two two different things, but the first thing that I do want to go back is it's almost like he wants her to experience what he was experiencing, which means staying stuck in one part of
the grieving
healing process.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not mature enough, right? But I have never been able to successfully keep like a real friendship with an ex. Like maybe communicate, maybe like social media. I have a few exes on social media. It's like a reaction here or there, but we're not actively hanging out. That, you know, those lines get blurry quick. So the fact that he still wants her around, and I'm sure they're probably still having sex.
Yeah, that's what she said, friends with benefits.
But the title.
Yeah.
Like my Facebook status still says single.
Yeah. Right. It would be interesting to hear his perspective on that. Like why taking away that title impacts his healing process. Like I don't understand that.
Yeah. That I'm wondering, right? And I think that this is what happens when we just have one perspective, right? One side is that we always have so many other questions about what his experience might have been. But absolutely, I mean, listen, I believe in staying together and working things together, working through them together as a couple. if we cannot manage things together, then how can we be certain that when other difficult situations do come, because they will come, we will be able to manage them? So does that mean that every time things get hard, we're going to take a break from each other? Does that mean that if we lose somebody else in the future, that you're going to have to need space for me to be able to heal? So it's a lot of red flags for me when someone asks for a break, honestly.
Yeah. And giving him the benefit of the doubt, it could also be maybe he has some guilt about her having to be there for him and support him during this time, right?
But how much guilt could he have if he still wants her around as a friend?
Yeah. So maybe maybe he's somehow convinced himself that it's better for her if they break up. Maybe
I'm
he's
sure he'd have a heart attack if she said I was going on a date.
Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like, okay, or maybe also I'm wondering if he's feeling like, I just don't want to deal with another grieving process. Another loss, because if he loses her completely, then that means that this is another person that I have to, grieve.
Yeah. So it's like, I could keep you around, but you don't have to be around to see me when I get into my depressive states. When I'm in my sadness, we'll have that separation because you'll live in your own home and I'll live in mine.
Right. And the other thing is too, I wonder how, because everyone supports differently, and being supportive to a partner is different to everyone. So I wonder if the support that she was giving him was the type of support that he needed. I'm wondering if he was ever vocal about the type of support that he actually needed from her, or he was just, not actually speaking about what his needs were. So she was supporting him the best way that she thought she could,
Okay. So I guess it doesn't seem like we have enough information, right, to advise, leave, run the other way, or I know for sure, I think staying in this friend zone, I would advise against that. But what follow-up questions do you think she should have for him? Like, what conversations need to happen before she makes a decision?
Yeah. I think I would be completely honest with him in regards to what she's feeling right now and just the confusion she's going through, and being honest that being with him but not with him will be very hurtful for her. And I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I can only imagine that she's feeling confused, that she's feeling sort of also taken advantage of in some ways. And those are the emotions that you want to be able to express to him, for him to also feel empathy for what he's asking you to go through at this point. But also asking him questions about, what about the support that I was providing to you could have been better? What were some of the needs that you had that perhaps I didn't meet because I had no idea, right? So really having a discussion with him, an open discussion about where are you mentally and emotionally, and how come you feel that this is the benefit to us? Like, how come you're making this decision? How come you think that this is the right thing to do at this moment? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that the fact that he doesn't want her around while he's going through this grieving is also another tell, right? Because if I was going through some grief, I need my friend, I need my wife to hold me down, to be there, to hear me out. So to me, and I'll be the pessimistic one, it's like, what potential future do they have, like you said, if he can't have her around to go through this?
I will say, though, there's a lot of ideology going around when people say, if you're not healed, you can't be with anybody, or you need to get yourself right first before you get with anyone. And I feel like people believe that deep down. So they think, if I'm hurting, if I'm broken, if I have a little depression or anything, anxiety, I'm not good enough to be with anyone. And I need to fix all of that independently and alone before I'm with anybody. So that could be what's influencing his decision.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm a firm believer about healthy relationships, of course. It's being in a healthy relationship and supporting each other through pain. I mean, this is the most vulnerable that you will be, right? When you're going through pain, when you're going through hurt, when you're going through all of these traumatic experiences with your partner. I mean, how much more closer can I feel to you when I see all these true feelings that you are experiencing, and I am there to support you in the best ways that I can, but also in the ways that you're asking me to support you, right? Like that's the most beautiful thing and the most healing that you can get, because you know that you have that person that you can rely on. And that's why it's I'm with Trav too. Like, you know, it's a little confusing, man. It's a little confusing.
Definitely. 100. It is. It's confusing. I will say I love just even the thought of comparing a breakup to a loss in that sense. Like, it could help him be a little more empathetic, right? Like putting himself in her shoes. Like, oh wait, I don't want to put you through what I just went through. And being honest and communicating about how confusing it could be, the whole friends with benefits situation that was going to happen.
Yes.
Something else you said. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, so I'm sorry. The last thing I'll say is that it just sounds like I forgot my point now, but that he doesn't want to lose her. No, ya me fue. I forgot my point. Never mind. Shoot.
I feel like I'm forgetting mine too. Oh, it was about how you mentioned maybe her support wasn't what he needed, right?
Right.
And I feel like sometimes when we feel like our partners are letting us down or things aren't going right, we want to put a lot of blame on our partner, right? So taking a step back, like, okay, maybe I thought I was supporting you, but I've never was taught how to support someone through a grieving process, right? Maybe I need to get a book. I need to read something. Which reminds me, Travis and we were just having a conversation a couple days ago about my parenting and the ways I show up for my son or not. And it's like, I was never taught that. So I have a book literally that I'm reading on how to figure it out, because how else am I going to learn if I don't go out and do the research?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also, you know, it has to come from us as well, right? Like if I know, only I know what I need to feel good, right? Only I know what I need from my partner to support me. So, you know, as an individual, I cannot feel guilty or I cannot feel frustrated with myself because I don't know, you know, I didn't support you the right way, or I didn't give you what you needed, because at the end of the day, as individuals, you have the responsibility to verbalize what you need, you know, to verbalize what's going to be helpful to you. Everybody's different, you know, and again, what might be of support to you might not be of support to Travis. So it's really important to have these discussions around, you know, what is it that you need? How can I be the best partner that I can be to you? Because what I need may not be what you need.
Love that. And it all comes back down to communication. Like, it sounds cliche, and I feel like so many of the conversations we have here, it comes down to you got to communicate. And it kind of sounds like you're taking the easy way out, but no, for real. Like, just talking about it. We're not mind readers. We need to express ourselves.
Did you mention in the beginning the age?
They're in their early 20s.
And I think that plays a role, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just turned 34. I don't know if you heard, Kiara, but I'm still figuring out how to deal with certain things, you know? So I can only imagine dealing with something this extreme in my early 20s. Yeah. I don't know if I can't say I had all the tools necessary to navigate that. So I'm giving some grace to this young man.
And even true. Yeah, even now, I always say I haven't suffered like a really big loss. I haven't had to grieve anyone that was really close to me in that way. So it's hard for me to put myself in their shoes, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, I know that, you know, how you said, where you said stuff that it really sounds cliche, right? It's like sending people back to talking. But reality is that communicating is also so difficult, right? So this is part of the reason why people choose not to, right, communicate, because it's easier actually not to. right? It's easier to suppress our emotions. It's easier not to discuss actual difficult situations that we're going through with others. And it really just sounds like he perhaps might have had a lot of difficulties expressing himself to her. And she just probably was trying to like play magician or mind reading. Like, okay, like what do I do? How do I meet? Like, how can I support him? Right. And yes, we're going to send her back to having a discussion with him and, asking these important questions, but also she has to prioritize herself and her emotions and her mental health, and knowing that, how is me staying in a relationship where I know I love this guy, I know that I've been there for him, and then now I'm being asked to just stay on standby.
So even if you communicate, but what he communicates is a boundary you're not willing to cross, then you have to be okay with that.
Yes.
And something else with communication is that sometimes we're ready to have a conversation, but we have a script in our head, right? So once it goes off script, now we don't want to talk anymore.
Wait, that wasn't your line.
That wasn't what I expected you to say, right? So when we're ready to have these conversations that are difficult to have, we gotta be flexible. And clearly, we're not going to know what our partners are going to say, because if you knew what they were going to say, you wouldn't have these conversations.
Right.
So we got to be open to, being checked too. Because sometimes I'm ready to tell Travis about himself and he tells me something that I did. And I'm like, oh, shit, you're right.
Uno reverse card.
Exactly. Wow. So that was good. I love this. Thank you so much for giving us your time and giving us your professional opinion.
We got to do this again.
Yes, I think we definitely should. This was really good.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
And can you let people know where they could find you?
Yeah, of course. So you can find me on my Instagram page, Mrs. Kiara Luna. Also my private practice. We're accepting actually new clients now. We have 2 new therapists who are great. And that is at newyoupsychotherapy.com.
All right. So we'll link everything on this episode. Thank you so much, Kiara.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
It's Kiara, it's been a while, but I think we need to hear it again. Do you still like us?
Oh, I love you guys.
Thank you. All
right, bye.
Peace, y'all.